Welcome back to the channel, and I am joined by a very special guest today, a man who needs no introduction in Jay Motty. Jay, thank you so much for doing this. Obviously, we're on a bit of a tight schedule, but yes, thank you for joining me tonight as we will talk about what is Ruben Amorim's best 11. Just want to say hi to everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Dan. Good to see you again, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, and good to have a chat with you.
Thank you, mate. But yeah, obviously the question is what is Amorim's best 11? People in the comments as well, try and get in your best 11 for Ruben Amorim. Obviously, this is not including injuries whatsoever. This is based on the full squad due to availability, and we'll just imagine everyone's fit. So obviously, I'd like to Starboy Amad Diallo definitely gets into this team. But anyway, we'll start off with goalkeeper. Obviously, it is Andre Onana, even though he's very heavily criticised. However, obviously, Biende is obviously a bit of a fan favourite with that FA Cup performance against Arsenal. Jay, who would you say is a starting keeper?
Yeah, there's not really much of a debate in a minute, is there? Like, Andre Onana is obviously flawed. I think that we can all say that, and the jury's probably out as to whether he's going to be a success at Manchester United. But as it stands at the minute, there aren't many other options. You look at Ali Biende, who did well at the Emirates, but obviously had a bit of a stinker at Spurs. So I don't think he's sort of pushed himself to the front in anyone's in the manager's thinking, or even in the fans' thinking, to be honest. So as it stands at the minute, it's Andre Onana, but it'll be interesting to see whether Ruben Amorim believes he can move forward with that goalkeeper.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, bro. But centre backs is where we get onto this now. Obviously, you've got the likes of Matthijs de Ligt. For me, probably signing of the season from the transfers we made in the summer, in my personal opinion, anyway. I'm pretty sure your mate McCullough thinks someone else's player sign of the season with a certain striker, or 9.5, should we say. But no, obviously, best centre-backs. Obviously, this is going to include Alessandro Martinez, who's currently out injured with an ACL injury. You've also got Aiden Heaven, we've had some quite good news about how he's supposed to be back in training after international break, which is always good news because he's looked like a proper talent at 18 years old. But your strongest back three, who would you choose?
It's a very good question, this, because it's difficult with the likes of Aiden Heaven, who's done well in a brief period. Then you've got Lenny Yoro, who's done well. I know he's played a lot more than Aiden Heaven has, but he's had injury issues. But he has looked good when he's played. Maguire's actually looked quite good this season. Again, when he's played, obviously. Not been faultless. I think we can all agree on that. But has genuinely been decent for Ruben Amorim. And even I'd go one step further and say, even when he was playing for Ten Hag earlier in the season, I thought he did quite well. So there's a case to be made for a few different players. But I think for me, if everyone is fit, right now, my back three would be Lisandro Martinez, who was flying just before he got that injury. It's unfortunate for him. Matthijs de Ligt and Lenny Yoro. I think those are your three. Certainly, I think your most naturally gifted centre-backs.
Yeah.
And perhaps if they stay fit as well, three that probably work best together. I think you got a little bit of everything. You've got the ball-playing capabilities of Lisandro Martinez and someone like Lenny Yoro, who's got that pace and can obviously cover some distance as well, especially tracking back like you saw at Anfield. De Ligt is a leader. I think he's good at almost everything. He can carry the ball. He can put a foot in. He's good in the air. So I think that offers you a little bit of balance there in that back three. Be interesting to see how it pans out. Does Aiden Heaven, when he's back and Martinez is fit, does he keep his place?
Yeah.
Is there going to be, any more signings? We've been linked with Jared Branthwaite, of course. Again, could he come in the summer? Harry Maguire was doing well until he got injured. Does the manager see him having a future? Even Victor Lindelof's been getting minutes, although I can't see that lasting for too much longer. So, yeah, I think for me, it's Martinez, De Ligt, and Yoro as my back three. There's other players you can sort of mention, but that seems the most obvious three for me.
Yeah. So funny enough, I was on Total Sport last night, and they asked me a question on, they asked me about Mason Mount, about his injury record, and I said that if we could look at selling him in the summer, even though Amorim really likes him, would you think of selling him? And I said yes. Then they asked me a bit of a trick question. Well, would you sell Alessandro Martinez? Well, he's equally as injury prone, and I felt like I've been stabbed almost. I was just there like,
no. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, because even though with Mason Mount, like Martinez has still proven himself. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't help an ACL injury where Mason Mount, it's a hamstring, it's a leg injury, it's his eyebrow, it's a bruise or something. It's like he's out for God. I mean, he's probably been out more than he's actually played. It is ridiculous, Mason Mount's long thing. But back three, I do agree with you, but with De Ligt and Martinez. But I would have Maguire as that solid centre back for my best back three under Amorim so far, because we knew the experience of Maguire in playing the back three, obviously with the way he's played in England and stuff in international duty. But it's not even. I think the best position we need is a central centre back, because De Ligt off the right, I think, is a monster. He's absolutely quality. He's a bit wasted in the middle, in my opinion. So I feel like that. If I want to get the best out of De Ligt and Martinez, I'd have them as the wider centre backs, and then I'd have to kind of shoehorn Maguire in the middle. I mean, Lenny Yoro to put in the middle, is he physical enough and can he control a game as that central centre back? Maybe not. We're not seeing enough of him in that position, but I just feel like De Ligt's way better off that right hand side.
I get your point with De Ligt. Just a couple of things. First of all, Martinez and Mount, I think to say they're both injury prone or whatever, I think the most obvious argument there is forget about when they're not playing. What have they done when they have played?
Yeah.
What has Mason Mount, no disrespect to the kid, but what has he done in a red shirt? Next to nothing.
A goal against Brentford, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to hammer the lad, because he's been through it in terms of injury. I thought, he had a decent 45 minutes at Brighton, but there's not been much to hang your hat on and go, that was amazing by Mason Mount. Lisandro Martinez, look at those first 6-7 months. It's phenomenal. Yeah. You look at just before he got injured. He wasn't just a great defender. He was banging in goals. Like, I think Lisandro Martinez has scored more than Mason Mount has this season. I know Mason Mount's not played, but the point I'm getting at is when they have played, one player has done something, another player hasn't. So just to look at the injuries and go, well, they're both injury prone, is missing the point entirely. Going back to your argument about the back three, I understand it. However, I do think there's slight flaws with Maguire still, and I think Goodison was a good example of that. You saw it. Yeah. We were talking to Carl Anker on the brew about this earlier. I think De Ligt goes out to the lad from Everton, and then Maguire's sort of a little bit sluggish getting back, gets caught out, doesn't sort himself out in time. Everton get a goal, and Maguire was pretty much at fault for that. Now, I know you might argue, well, Lenny Yoro had a stinker against Southampton, but I think Lenny Yoro's been getting better and better, and he's growing into his role. Maguire's 31 now. He's not. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna get any better. And I think that the problem with that is when you've got someone like De Ligt, who does say you've got wing backs, so you need to have a bit of pace in your defence. Maguire can get found wanting a little bit on that front.
He can, yeah.
And I don't think he makes up for it completely, because you can have no pace, or not no pace. Obviously, he's got some pace, but you cannot be the quickest. But you can make up for it with your reading of the game. You judging. When do I go? When do I stay? When do I push up? When am I going out to support my left centre back or my right centre back? When am I not? I sometimes don't think he gets that right as well, and that's what worries me a little bit with Maguire, because I think if you're going to have a back three of Martinez, Maguire, and De Ligt, I think the one element overall in that defence that's missing is a little bit of pace. I think they're all okay. They're not slow.
No.
There isn't really a lot of pace there. And I think if you do get someone gets caught in behind, it's like we saw Anfield as a great example. Lenny Yoro and Darwin Núñez. He tracks back, gets a tackle in. So that would be the only thing. I think in terms of balance, I think it's slightly better. But I'm not I'm not 100% against having Maguire in there. He's a good defender. Yeah. He's a leader like De Ligt. He's very good in the air. Let's not forget that. He's better in the air than Lenny Yoro is. I think we can all agree on that. Plus, he probably having two tall. I know Lenny Yoro's quite tall, but having two centre-backs who are very good in the air would make up for Lisandro Martinez being a little bit shorter. So there is an argument either way. But for me, a sort of almost the perfect balance would be Martinez, De Ligt, and Yoro. And I'll be honest with you, and I know this is going to sound ludicrous, right? And it's such early days.
Go on.
But I would probably have Aiden Evan in that back three over Maguire.
Wow.
And I know that's early. And I know I've gone early with that one. And Maguire's done far more than Aiden Evan has. And Aiden Evans got, he's only 18, he's barely played. But I'm seeing something in Aiden Evans, I think, you know what? He's got a bright future. Maguire's sort of, coming towards the end of his time at United. So, I don't know. I just think in terms of Amorim's system defenders, I think Aiden Evans on that left-hand side of a back three. I know Martinez likes to play there, so maybe there is a bit of imbalance there. But I wouldn't start it, Heaven if everyone's fit anyway. But I'm saying Aiden Heaven on that left-hand side works quite well. I think I get your point about you feel like the two wide centre-backs are the most important in a back three, don't you? I know that sounds like a sort of contradiction, but it does feel a little bit like you can almost get away with it a little bit as the centre-back.
Yeah, because let's say, for example, from a goal kick, when do you ever see Onana pass it to the middle centre-back? He always passes it to you out left or out right. Or out
of possession as well. Out of possession, it's the two wide centre-backs who are the ones who have got to make a decision, cover for the wing-back. If Dorgu and Delo have bombed forward and we get caught in a counter-attack, then it's the sort of the two wide who've got the biggest job on their hands. So I understand everything you're saying. Just for me, I think I'd probably go with Euro over Maguire.
Right, okay. Right, moving on to wing backs. Obviously, for me, it's nailed on. Patrick Dorgu and Amad Diallo. Now, I think it was on your channel actually where you mentioned about Amad coming in late and teams would struggle to mark him if he comes in late as a wing back because he gets man-marked and forced out the game a little bit when he plays further up as that right 10. So I feel like if you had Amad Diallo off the right wing back, and I mean obviously defensively you can make your own theories, but for me Patrick Dorgu can prove what he obviously he's an athlete. Right, that's why for me he stands out a lot. I mean, for 40 million, well, no, it wasn't 40 million. We paid him. Was it 27, 30 million? We paid for Dorgu.
Is it 30 million euros or something like that?
Something like that. So he's looking like quite a good player. And obviously my first assumption of players from the Italian league is can they handle the pace in the Premier League? And Dorgu obviously is recent suspension, but he's back for our first game after international break against Forest, and I think he's going to make a massive difference in that game. I back us for a 2-1 victory in that game with Dorgu being backed, personally, in my opinion. But but I would have Amad Diallo as the right wing back. Now, obviously, you can question. Obviously, Amad should be further up the pitch because he's one of our most dangerous attackers. But with the team I've kind of got laid out in my own mind, I feel like having that extra attacker, it could almost force a back four almost in transition. So if, for example, you have because I've seen it a few times with Ruben Amorim, you'll see a wing back, whether it's Dalot or Mazraoui, tuck in next to Igate or Casemiro, and then we'll almost go to a 3-2-5 almost. And you've got an extra body up front then, and that's how we seem to be doing a lot better when it comes to going up front. But yeah, what are your wing back options?
You make a great case for Amad as a wing back. I was chatting to Steve on the Brew back this today, and I think he was talking about him being a wing back. And because we had Carl Anka just going through his tactics board with when it came to the wing backs, and I think Dorgu is a given, isn't he? We all know that. Dorgu, he fits in. He's done well. I know he got sent off against Ipswich, but
was it sent off? You think?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. I thought it was. When I looked at it, I thought I don't like slowing things down on VAR. I think it makes everything look worse.
Yeah,
but I saw when I looked, I thought I can see why he got a red card. It might be a bit harsh, but I wasn't surprised he got a red card.
Yeah.
So Dorgu's a given. Now the question is, can Delo do the job we need him to do? Delo's been very up and down this season, very up and down, probably more down than up.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big question mark over him still. So I'm not 100% sold on the idea that Delo can get back to his best, because we thought last season he had a good season. This season, I think he's been poor as often as he's been good. Yeah. So maybe someone like Amad coming in. Now, the reason I think you've got a good point with Amad is I think we do have other options in the 10, whereby you might go, actually, if we play Amad in the wing back, maybe in the 10 you could have. I like the idea of Kobe Mainoo in a 10. I think that can work. I do. I actually like Bruno in the 10. I just think you're running out of options in midfield. If you put Bruno in there, you probably need him a bit deeper because at the minute we haven't got anyone else.
Yeah.
So I know Igate can play there, but I don't trust Casemiro too much. I know he's been doing well recently, but I still think
he's looked mint in Europe though. Casemiro has looked really good again. Yeah.
So I'm just debating in my head where I'd go with this. Would I sacrifice Amad as a 10 to play him as a right wing back? and have just dropped the low from the squad.
Because my only assumption of right wing back was that first game against Ipswich, where we scored in like the first minute, and then that ball he made to Rashford, where you saw him like just bombing it down the wing back. Like, I just feel like that he's got that directness, and like we said, we've seen his creativity.
Well,
we've seen how
look at Everton at home. Yeah, Everton at home, like perfect example. He created 2 goals out of nothing by tackling the Everton winger. So there's a case there.
Yeah,
and I like the idea of an attacker, a winger, being used as a wing back rather than a fullback being used as a wing back, which is what you'd be doing with Delo.
Yeah,
I'm just curious as to whether we are missing a bit off the front. And you know what? I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go Ahmad as wing back. You've convinced me. Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll take it. Right, midfield 2. Obviously, you've got Casemiro, you've got Mainu, you've got Ugarte, you've got Bruno. For me, based on, it's hard to say. I'm going to agree with what you said about Mainu in a 10 because I didn't like him when he played that false 9 position. I can't remember which game it was, but I didn't like him in that position. But I'm going to go Bruno and Ugarte. Now, Casemiro, based off recent performances, I think he's been mint, but I think just reserve him for likes of European games. I think Premier League, obviously, we've seen him struggle in the Premier League too many times. I think that last season has really ruined his credibility and reputation in the United fan base because everyone thought he slowed down. I think he's been quite good, though, recently, but I'm not getting ahead of myself. But no, for me, Ugarte and Bruno is my double pivot. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. Okay. In an ideal world, Bruno Fernandes for me is in the 10. He's in the 10.
Yeah,
I love him in that final third, but I do think we need him in midfield at the minute. I don't really think. I think because of a little bit of not question marks. It sounds harsh that, but mainly I don't think he's quite box to box. I think he's very good at receiving the ball, and I think he's very good at retaining possession. And I think he can be very, very effective in the final third, which is what I'm going to get to in a minute when we come to who's playing in the 10s. I think Bruno, we've seen it recently. He has got that range of passing. Well, not just recently. We've seen it since he arrived at Old Trafford. He's got a range of passes in him. He's got an engine. He can cover every blade of grass. He's not the quickest, but he certainly doesn't get sort of left behind very often in terms of pace and stuff. He does get around that pitch very well. So I would be tempted to go with Ugarte and Bruno in the middle. I think longer term, you maybe get another midfielder in.
Yeah.
Alongside Ugarte, and you move Bruno a bit further up.
Well, I saw your video today saying a midfielder is the most important signing in the summer. I think I agree with you. Like, I made a video talking about 3 key signings United need to make, and I scout reported on Camavinga. Well, obviously, I know that's a very high and unrealistic target, but I feel like United need that left-footed midfielder. Like, I think Ugarte playing off the right in that midfield too, but having that box-to-box left-footed side player who can link up the likes of Dorgu or whoever's playing at the left 10. It would be probably like Garnacho or someone being an inverted winger almost. Like, I feel like having someone like Camavinga or a midfielder is very important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love Eduardo Camavinga at Manchester United. I think we missed the trick when we were linked with him a few years ago before he went to Real Madrid. I'd be very surprised if we managed to get him now, I'll be honest with you. But I understand your point in terms of what he'd offer the midfield. I think that Ugarte looks like a decent midfielder, looks very good on the ball as well, which is a bit of a pleasant surprise. I know he's a bit of a tackler in terms of his numbers and stuff and what we've seen. On the pitch, he certainly gets stuck in. He's a bit of an animal. I think Karl Anker called him the thug fielder. You need them sort of thugs in there midfield. So yeah, I like Ugarte. I like Bruno. There's a bit of balance there as well because what Ugarte lacks in his range of passing, Bruno Fernandes makes up for. Definitely. And also maybe what Bruno lacks for in a bit of his physicality and tackling, Ugarte makes up for. So there is a good balance there. So I'd go with Ugarte and Bruno as well. I think you nailed it.
Awesome. Your 2 10s, and I'll let you go first. So you're not copying me. So yeah, I want to know your 2 10s first.
This is a real difficult one for me, because I feel like there's a lot of 10s who are operating in a similar level with great attributes, but flaws as well. And the biggest flaw I think we've got for all our attackers is a lack of goals. I think if you pick any attacker, and I don't class Bruno as an attacker, Ahmad has done quite well with goals, to be fair, but obviously he's injured now. But for quite a few of them, there ain't enough goals there.
Yeah.
So I do have my worries. But I'll explain myself. I would go with Xerxes and Kobbie Mainoo. Now that might sound a bit crazy because Kobbie Mainoo's not prolific by any stretch of imagination, and Xerxes' biggest flaw is he don't get enough goals. But they both look after the ball very well. They're both great in tight spaces. Kobbie Mainoo, you look at Kobbie Mainoo made his Premier League debut in November 2023. Like he's better. I mean, and also he's missed a lot of this season for injury. Kobbie Mainoo, you look at some of his most memorable performances, not all of them, but some of them, especially in terms of goals. Where's he been operating? Look at the game against Wolves. That goal, that was a classic number 10 goal. That. Look at the Manchester derby. Where was he when he scored that second goal? He's in the box, getting forward. Look at the game against Liverpool at Old Trafford, where he scored that worldie top bins. Where was he? Just in the edge of the box, I think he was. He can operate in that area. He's got a finish on him. He's got the ability to sort of get out of tight spaces or to buy himself half a yard and get a shot off or to pick a pass out or carry the ball. So I'd like to see him doing that further up the pitch. Now, Ruben Amorim said it himself, didn't he? He said, I believe Kobbie Mainoo's best position is further up the pitch. I believe he's still learning elements of his game as well. The trouble I had with Ruben Amorim is then moved him up to a false 9 against Palace, which I thought was overkill. I thought he might be a 10. He ain't a false 9. And then he then obviously got injured. But I think Kobbie Mainoo as a 10 works. I think Xerxes as a 10 works, even though there was a lack of goals. I think he's very good on the ball. He's very entertaining. The only reason I put Xerxes in ahead of Garnacho is because I think Garnacho offers you a lot off the bench.
Yeah.
If you're chasing a game and you need someone to carry the ball, you need someone to cause problems for the opposition, you need someone who can run in behind, you need someone who's got that confidence to give me the ball, I'm going to go with it. Garnacho's your man. And we've seen him be very, very effective off the bench. I don't know if Xerxes is that guy. And I'd like to have someone on the bench who can come into the number 10 role and absolutely get at it. And I think he can do that, Garnacho. So I'd go Xerxes and Mainoo as my 2 number 10s.
Yeah. I agree with the Mainoo call, but I would have Garnacho as my 10 only because of how versatile he's shown he's been recently. I mean, I get it. He's thinking when he's off that left, and obviously when he's on the right, he's left tempted to shoot and stuff. But I just feel like that when he's off that left, that's where the most danger seems to happen. Now, I feel like that the chemistry between him and Dorgu, when he really ignores the overlapping run, comes down to his decision making. But I would definitely have, because all I can imagine is having Garnacho as the left 10, like linking up with either Agate, Bruno, or Dorgu. But then you've got Mainoo as the right 10, with Amad Diallo arriving late to be that extra body out wide. Then Mainoo linking up and then going into the box. You've got Garnacho waiting on the edge of the box for a shot maybe or to lay it off again. And it's like, just the way I see it is that you've got the perfect balance of technical brilliance from Mainoo, who's really good with the ball at his feet, really good at dribbling. And you've got that direct, like, spark from Garnacho, who we know who can score a goal when he's on form. I mean, he fucking scored one of the best Premier League goals I've ever seen. So it's like, we know he's got it in his locker. So at the end of the day, I would personally have Garnacho. And what I like at the moment is that obviously him playing as that right 10, I'm hoping rubs off on him. It's a bit like muscle memory. So that when he eventually does have that left 10 spot again, he will then think more creative. Okay, that person's free. I'm going to pass it instead of shooting, like he has been like when he's been making more crosses into the box. So if he's dragging out a fullback, and then instead of like trying to take him on and beating 3 different players in the opposition, he actually cuts in and makes a cross, because we know he's also got a good crossing ability on him.
I agree with a lot of what you said there, and I get it. I do prefer him on the right-hand side, though. I'll be honest with you. I do feel like on the left, his instincts is to go onto his right. And because you're cutting in, you said it yourself, getting your shot off. Where, because he's right-footed, when he's on the right-hand side, he can't cut in onto his left. So he's more likely to go out on the outside and try and get a pass in. And I think we've seen a little bit more from that element of his game. I think Amorim's been on his case about it, and he seems to have adapted a little bit, where you see more balls coming in from Garnacho from that right-hand side. There's still flaws there. I still think his decision making is all over the gap. But I understand your point. And listen, if you were to say, if I start, say, Xerxes and Garnacho in the 10 for the entire season, who's going to get you the most goals and assists? I think it'd be pretty similar. I think there might even be a case that maybe Garnacho edges it. I just feel that from the bench, Garnacho offers you something. I don't think Xerxes, if you're chasing a game, is that guy, personally. I think Xerxes is probably better if you're trying to hold on to a lead and you bring him on to sort of keep hold of the ball and frustrate the opposition somewhat. But I understand where you're coming from. I'm a big fan of Alejandro Garnacho, and I think he's been a little bit harshly treated at times this season, although he hasn't done himself many favours with some of his antics on social media.
No, yeah, I agree on that. That's where it also comes to decision making. It's not on the pitch, also off the pitch. Like I saw a good tweet where I can't remember, it was probably one of them what they call faceless accounts or something, but they said that Garnacho's got the ego of Ronaldo and the play and the ability of was it Heskey or something? It was like some crap football from back in the day or something. So I was like, it's a bit harsh, but I understand where you're coming from. People say that he's got the ego like he's already made it, when obviously he's still got a lot to learn, which I agree with. But yeah, obviously, and we'll move on to the final position as well, which is obviously the main striker. I mean, obviously, I'd like to say Chido Obi, because I'd love to see him a chance. I made an argument that if Amorim can give Aiden Heaven all these chances, I'd like him to see it with Obi Martin as well. But I've saved Xerxes for last. And yeah, I'm putting him as my striker just because of Hoyland. I just think that he just infuriates me, because I'm done. I'm off the train now of Hoyland turning good. I just don't see it anymore. I really backed him last season, 16 goals. I thought that this was going to be his season and stuff, but it's just, for me, it was that Fulham game where he's done now all season, and Obi just came on and just created 3 chances for himself like it was nothing. And I'm hoping that next season we see more of Obi, and that's his breakthrough season, because I think we've got a special talent up front there. But when it comes to up front, my choice is Xerxes personally.
I hear you, I do, and I think I've criticised Rasmus Højlund a few times this season, but I do feel like he works in an Amorim system. Funnily enough, I think he can work in an Amorim system. I just don't think we're quite there yet in terms of the personnel, and I feel like once we are there, and once we are, especially with those wing backs getting forward a little bit more, and you've seen glimpses of it with Dorgu, I think Højlund will get more chances. And I actually think his last couple of games have been his best in a red shirt this season. Thought he was good against Sociedad, and I thought he was, did well and got his goal against Leicester, albeit against weakened opposition. I'm not going to pretend they're not, but there's still a decent player there, I feel. And I like Xerxes, but he says himself he's not a 9. He says he's a 9.5, a 10.
Yeah.
And I just feel like you need someone who is at least a striker up front.
Yeah.
Now, you said Chido, right? And I like Chido, but the kid's played, what, an hour of Premier League football, is it? Maybe a bit more?
Something like that, yeah.
He's not scored yet, and I know he's not had many chances, so I'm not disparaging him for not scoring, because he's barely got going. But I just feel it's far too early to be relying on Chido for anything more than cameos, really.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you put him, Chido right now is probably, well, he is your second choice striker. Yeah. And he's not eligible in the Europa, which might be a blessing in disguise. I think if that changed and you went to put him into the first choice striker, all of a sudden, all eyes are on you, and you've got this 17-year-old, and people are expecting him to carry Manchester United forward, to get goals. Plus, you've got a £72 million striker on the bench. A striker who, despite his flaws, and he has got flaws, did score 16 goals for United in his first season. So you're going to look at it and you're going to go, the pressure's on him. He's not delivering. What's going on? Why isn't Højlund brought in? And then I think that could harm Chido, because then all of a sudden he's been dropped and the rest of it. Plus with Xerxes, I like Xerxes, but he's one of the few players who probably looks even less like scoring than Rasmus Højlund at times. So Højlund is flawed, and I think we need a striker in the summer. But for now, I think Højlund is your best bet. I really do. I think he's the one player who you think actually is a striker who is available and has at least some experience of scoring at the top level.
Yeah, I mean, my dad turns around, because I had this argument with my dad every single time, because I say I'd rather Xerxes, just because I feel like Xerxes brings up plays into play a lot more than Højlund, and obviously his hold-up plays a lot better. But my dad turned around and said to me that, well, you wouldn't hire a plumber to do your electrics, would you? And I was there like, well, I get what you mean, because obviously saying he's not a striker. But at the same time, I'm like, some electricians know what to do when it comes to plumbing. Do you know what I mean? So you got a few handymen who know what they're doing round the wires. But no, I feel like with Højlund, I get your point. Obviously, he is the striker. You could say he is the main striker of the team. Why it doesn't matter about how much he costs. Like, he has scored a decent amount of goals for United, especially in his first season, and a bit like last season as well. If you remember, he went was it like 17 games without scoring, and then went on a mad run where he scored 8 in 6 or in 7 games or whatever, back to back to back. And no other under 21s player have done that in Premier League history or something, or since Wayne Rooney or some stat like that. So I think Højlund's a massive confidence player, and he needs an arm around him. And I feel like that, like you said, if we get an experienced striker who can take that pressure off him in the summer, I feel like we might see a much better version of Højlund. So it's just how frustrating it's been this season, because you know that he's got the potential, and I do believe that, but it's just right now, based on current form, as I said, I've just come off. I'm waiting for the next train to come by, because right now I'm going for a little holiday and I'm waiting for the return coach home or the return train home. But yeah, I'd say that you've probably convinced me a bit like I did with Ahmad, with you. I think you've convinced me with Højlund. So 1-1, I'll say.
Fair enough.
But no, I've just got one question for you as well.
Yeah.
What has been your favourite United game under Ruben Amorim?
It's a great question. I think it's hard for me to look. Can I give you 2 answers?
Yeah, I'll let you.
I'll say thank you. I'll say, bless you. I'll say, obviously the Etihad. Yeah. Beating City in the Etihad. If other than beating Liverpool at Anfield, I think that's as good as it gets. I know the performance wasn't amazing, but I thought I don't buy into this narrative. It was 2 crap teams cancelling each other out and one just wanted it a bit more. I thought we were a better team on the day. I do. I think you go through those teams performance by performance, and there's far more Manchester United players who had a good game than there are Manchester City players. I think it's that simple. Yeah. And in terms of the reason I've gone for that as one, because I enjoyed that, but I wasn't there at that game. I watched it. I did the watch along for it. So I think the game I've enjoyed probably the most, where I've been in the stadium, is bizarrely the Arsenal game, because even though we drew and we were winning and then we ended up drawing, the atmosphere was great. I thought the performance was very good.
Yeah,
it was just everyone was up for it.
Was that the league game or the Emirates in the FA Cup? Do you mean
the league game at Old Trafford? Sorry. No. So I took my kids, had a great day. They enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And the atmosphere, when the atmosphere is going at Old Trafford, pumping, it does make a difference.
It's mega. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, this felt a little bit like a throwback. I'm not saying for any 1 minute this is the same as Keane versus Vieira or Henry versus Stam or whatever it was. But this was a good, especially that second half. Let's be honest, the first half went all that. Second half, 2 good teams. United, forget about Arsenal. United going for it, playing some decent football. The crowd absolutely, singing their hearts out. Just really enjoyed it. Just a great afternoon.
Yeah, me too. My answer was the Arsenal game as well for the League One, because obviously my TikTok account actually got banned because I streamed the Glazed Out process. I was in the crowd, and TikTok banned me for 4 hours or something. So apparently
was that because of some of the chants that were getting thrown about?
I got banned. It said harassment and bullying, and I'm there like, who the fuck am I bullying? Like all I was thinking is,
maybe they caught some of the lyrics to them chants and thought, bit ropey that one.
It come up as well, saying health warning. There's some chemicals that might affect your health or something because of all the flares that were going off and stuff. So, but no, like I said, obviously me going to that game, it was obviously I was hyped up with the Glazers Out protest. Like I said, the atmosphere was mega, and the team and the game was brilliant. Now, I did really like the game against Real Sociedad, the most recent one at home, because that was just, I'd say, probably our best performance under Amorim, where we just absolutely looked like a proper Amorim team. But no, when it comes to actual pure enjoyment and excitement, it was definitely that game against Arsenal in the league, in my opinion. But
Fair
yeah,
play,
Jay,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, you're a busy man, so I really appreciate you sharing your time. Obviously,
not at all.
anyone who's watching, you probably come to watch Jay. But if you don't know who Jay is, then obviously go follow him on Stretford Paddock or Full Time Devils, as you're still called on YouTube when it comes to your at. So yeah,
we need to fix that.
Yeah, just thank you so much for coming on, bro. I really appreciate it.
Nah, keep up the good work, Dan. Always enjoy watching your content. Sell it as it is. Very honest, passionate United fan. That's what it's all about. So thanks for having me on, bro.
Thank you, bro. Obviously, and thank you to everyone in the comments as well. Apart from Kieran, who says Agate is awful and isn't good enough for his absolute chatting waffle, mate. So
We'll
yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.